Welcome to Valid History. Here, old photos tell real stories from the past. Please subscribe, like, and share to help keep history alive. In January 1937 in Tennessee, 22-year-old tobacco farmer Charlie Johns married his 9-year-old neighbor Eunice Winstead, who slipped away from home telling her parents she was going to buy a doll, a moment that stunned many. On his deathbed in 2010 lies Colonel Andrei Vasilievich Jeludov, a soldier wounded 3 times during his service and honored with the Order of Glory 3rd Class, the Order of the Red Star, and several Soviet military medals. Around 1899, a man calmly stands inside the enormous opening cut into a massive tree, likely a redwood, revealing the astonishing scale of the forest giants that once dominated vast stretches of North America. Piled together in a haunting collection, wedding rings removed from Holocaust victims before their executions around 1945 stand as silent evidence of lives stolen, each band once belonging to someone who never returned home. A familiar figure of everyday life in 1950, a milk delivery man makes his rounds, part of a routine service that once brought fresh bottles directly to household doorsteps each morning. Inside one of Saddam Hussein's palaces in Tikrit in 2003, a United States Marine slides down a polished marble handrail, a fleeting moment of levity during the Iraq War inside a symbol of former power. In September 1939, a young Polish boy sits quietly among the shattered ruins of Warsaw, his small figure surrounded by devastation as the German invasion marked the violent beginning of World War II. In 1943, after French resistance leader Raymond Aubrac was captured and sentenced to death by the Nazis, his wife Lucy led a daring commando raid that freed him, and the couple remained together until her death in 2007. Between 1851 and his capture in 1886, the Apache leader Geronimo fought repeatedly against forces surrounding his people, guiding them through years of conflict as free southwestern tribes were gradually forced into captivity. During the 1972 Easter Offensive, actress Jane Fonda visited North Vietnam and posed beside anti-aircraft guns, later earning the nickname Hanoi Jane after publicly calling for American prisoners of war to face war crimes trials. In the Soviet Union in 1961, a young boy excitedly shares the news of Yuri Gagarin's historic spaceflight with a local shepherd, carrying word of humanity's first journey into space across a quiet rural landscape. 2 images separated by decades show legendary bodybuilder Ronnie Coleman at his peak around 2000 and again in 2025, revealing the dramatic passage of time in the life of one of bodybuilding's most celebrated champions. Taken sometime in the 1980s during his college years, this photograph shows a young Barack Obama standing with his grandparents, offering a quiet glimpse into the early life of the future president. In Oslo in 1905, visitors stand outside Ullevål Hospital, meeting quarantined family and friends from a careful distance, a somber scene shaped by the strict health measures of the time. Around 1900, women from the Kingdom of Zanzibar smile for the camera, a rare glimpse of daily life in the East African Sultanate during a period when photography was slowly documenting distant societies. In Vienna, Austria in 1946, a soldier returns home after the devastation of World War II, capturing a quiet but powerful moment as Europe began the long process of rebuilding shattered lives. In Pittston, Pennsylvania, in 1911, young boys work as coal breakers in a mine, spending long hours separating coal from rock, a stark reminder of the harsh child labor conditions of the early industrial age. In 1930, Adolf Hitler posed for a photograph wearing traditional lederhosen, an image he later disliked, and said made him appear weak, offering an unusual glimpse into how carefully he tried to control his public image. Aboard the British warship HMS Hermione in 1941, the ship's cat named Convoy sleeps peacefully in a tiny hammock specially made for him, bringing a small touch of comfort to life at sea during wartime. In 1992, during the Croatian War of Independence, a soldier stands before a wall bearing the message, "God, if I die young, send me to heaven, as hell I have already been." In Boston in 1952, a devoted mother carefully adjusts the hems of matching Easter dresses for all 10 of her daughters, moving patiently down the line as the girls stand waiting, a quiet portrait of family care. In Coffee County, Alabama in 1939, a 13-year-old girl stands beside a wood-burning stove cooking for her family of 6, a child carrying adult responsibilities during the harsh realities of the Great Depression. This unusual full-face swimming mask from 1928 shows early attempts to improve underwater breathing and visibility, reflecting the inventive spirit of an era experimenting with new ways for humans to explore beneath the water. In 1912, Louis and Lola became known as the Titanic Orphans after surviving the sinking alone in a lifeboat. Until a month later, their mother arrived from France and finally reunited with them. Taken in Elm Grove, Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, in August 1936, this photograph shows a mother and her 2 children facing the hardships of the Great Depression with quiet resilience and dignity. In 1964, the Beatles meet boxing champion Muhammad Ali, who jokingly pretends to punch the band during a playful moment that captures the humor and energy of 2 cultural forces meeting face to face. Laika, the Soviet dog launched aboard Sputnik 2 in 1957, became the first animal to orbit Earth, yet no plan existed for her return, and she died in space during humanity's earliest steps into the cosmos. In 1945, Winston Churchill sits atop the remains of Adolf Hitler's chair, a striking symbol of victory and defiance at the end of a devastating war that reshaped the world. On December 23, 1974, Rachel Trelika, Renee Wilson, and Julie Ann Mosley entered a mall in Fort Worth, Texas, to buy Christmas gifts and were never seen again, leaving behind one of America's most haunting, unsolved disappearances. High above London in the 1930s, the view from the Tower of Big Ben reveals the vast city stretching outward, offering a rare perspective from one of Britain's most famous landmarks. In a widely circulated photograph, Kurt Cobain is seen in tears after smashing his guitar through an amplifier and walking off stage, a raw moment witnessed backstage by photographer Jesse Froman. In 1899, 3 lumberjacks pose proudly together, representing the rugged workers who spent long days cutting timber during an era when forests fueled expanding industries and growing towns. Along a shoreline in 1905, stylish beachgoers gather in fashionable attire, capturing a glimpse of early seaside leisure as people embraced new forms of recreation at the start of the 20th century. Taken in 1852, this early photographic self-portrait stands among the earliest examples of what today would be called a selfie, showing how curiosity with cameras began almost as soon as photography itself. In West Virginia in 1908, a young miner stands at the entrance of a coal mine, representing the harsh child labor that placed boys underground in dangerous work during America's industrial expansion. Before it burned down in 1907, sailors gathered at the famous Cliff House, a popular coastal landmark where travelers and locals met above the dramatic cliffs overlooking the Pacific Ocean. In 1899, 3 chain makers stand together after their hard labor, representing the demanding industrial work that shaped working-class lives during the closing years of the 19th century. A charming photograph from 1947 captures a young girl standing for the camera, preserving a small everyday moment from the years just after World War II. In 1945, after the end of World War II, a returning soldier embraces his young daughter for the first time, capturing the emotional reunion of families long separated by war. In 1976, Russian man Nikolai Machulyuk feeds a polar bear and her cubs condensed milk, an unusual and daring encounter between humans and powerful wildlife in the Arctic landscape. In Hesse in 1899, members of royal families from Germany, Greece, and Russia relaxed together in the Emperor's Garden, sharing laughter during a peaceful gathering of Europe's intertwined monarchies. As the Berlin Wall rose in 1961, families were suddenly divided, and parents in West Berlin lifted their children toward the barrier so relatives trapped in East Berlin could briefly glimpse them across the Cold War divide. In the Netherlands in 1933, a young boy skates across the ice with a pillow strapped to his backside, a clever homemade solution meant to soften the inevitable falls of winter skating. In Idaho in 1891, workmen carefully assemble a long wooden water pipeline, reflecting the massive effort required to bring reliable water systems to growing communities in the American West. Around 1893, a young Albert Einstein stands beside his sister Maria, a quiet childhood portrait long before he would become one of the most influential scientists in history. In 1890, 2 men with extraordinary mustaches stand side by side, their facial hair intertwining in a playful display of the elaborate grooming styles popular in the late 19th century. In the 1920s, a couple poses proudly in their Model T Ford beside Balanced Rock at Garden of the Gods in Colorado, combining the wonder of natural scenery with the excitement of early automobile travel. During the early 1970s, tearaway pants for men appeared as a novelty fashion item, designed with snaps along the sides so the trousers could be removed instantly in one dramatic motion. With astonishing strength, Finnish strongman Vilami Haudavita grips 2 rifles with his teeth during the 1930s, turning a simple photograph into a striking demonstration of human endurance and spectacle that captures the daring spirit of early 20th century strongmen. In the quiet reflection of a mirror, a woman from the early 1900s smiles as she takes a self-portrait, capturing a rare and personal moment from a time when photography was still a careful and deliberate process. In Deadwood during 1877, a couple pauses in the rugged landscape, likely searching for gold, reflecting the determination and hope that drew countless fortune seekers westward during the intense years of the American gold rush. Before refrigerators changed daily life, a man delivers heavy blocks of ice during the 1930s, supplying households with the precious cold needed to preserve food in an era when ice delivery was an essential neighborhood service. Towering over nearly every horse of his era, Brooklyn Supreme stood an incredible 6 feet 6 inches tall and weighed about 3,200 pounds during the 1930s, making him one of the largest horses ever recorded in history. In 1966, North Dakota faced an astonishing winter scene as snowdrifts reached nearly 40 feet high, creating a frozen landscape that revealed the sheer intensity of the region's powerful and unforgiving winter storms. Captured in 1987, Jackie Chan stands beside his wife and young son, revealing a quieter family moment behind the global fame of the legendary action star, known for his daring stunts and influential career in martial arts cinema. In the Philippines in 1935, a tiny kitten balances gently atop the wide floating leaf of a Victoria water lily, creating a delicate scene where nature's design supports a surprisingly light and curious passenger. On October 30th, 1974, Muhammad Ali faces George Foreman in one of boxing's most famous matches, a dramatic encounter that would become known worldwide as a defining moment in the legendary history of the sport. On June 5, 1989, in Tiananmen Square, a lone Chinese man stands directly in front of a column of advancing tanks, creating one of the most powerful and unforgettable images of individual resistance in modern history. High above Manhattan in 1932, construction workers rest casually on a steel beam, capturing a breathtaking moment during the city's rapid skyline expansion and revealing the everyday courage behind the building of New York. In 1942, a woman takes a mirror selfie while a small photograph, likely of her husband, rests in the lower corner, quietly hinting at personal connections and the emotional realities of life during wartime. On September 2, 1882, the first successful photograph of lightning captured a powerful natural phenomenon, marking a remarkable moment in photographic history when technology finally preserved the sudden brilliance of a lightning strike. This 1908 photograph captures Native Americans standing together, preserving a historical glimpse of indigenous people during a time when photography increasingly documented cultures, communities, and identities across the changing landscapes of the early 20th century. In 1877, passengers experience one of the earliest forms of urban transportation as they take a taxi, illustrating how growing cities were already developing organized systems to move people efficiently through busy streets. In 1965, at New York's Majestic Theater, Martin Luther King Jr. shares a warm laugh with Sammy Davis Jr. in the performer's dressing room, revealing a candid moment between two influential figures of American culture. In France during 1920, three lace makers sit closely together, carefully crafting delicate lace by hand, preserving a traditional textile art that required patience, precision, and remarkable skill passed through generations. Rising in Iran, the historic Togrol Tower stands as a striking architectural structure, its tall cylindrical form reflecting the enduring craftsmanship and historical presence of monumental towers built in earlier centuries. In 1910, a young boy proudly holds a camera, representing a generation growing up during a time when photography was becoming more accessible and gradually transforming how everyday life was recorded and remembered. During the late 1800s, workers perform extreme tree pruning, dramatically cutting back large branches, revealing the intense physical labor and bold methods often used in early landscaping and tree maintenance practices. Around 1875, a group identified as Victorian witches poses for a photograph, reflecting the period's fascination with spiritualism, mysticism, and theatrical portrayals of supernatural themes during the late 19th century. The futuristic 1959 Bowden Spacelander bicycle stands out with its smooth, flowing design, representing one of the most visually distinctive bicycles ever produced, and capturing the bold industrial creativity of mid-20th century engineering. During the Victorian era from 1837 to 1901, cabinet cards became a widely popular photographic format, allowing people to capture and display detailed portraits that preserved family memories with remarkable clarity. For 3,245 years, an ancient seal remained unbroken outside the fifth shrine of Pharaoh Tutankhamun until the tomb was discovered in 1920 in Egypt's Valley of the Kings, revealing one of archaeology's greatest discoveries. On a busy street corner in New York in 1963, a hot dog stand serves customers, capturing a simple but iconic slice of city life that reflects the everyday rhythm of urban street food culture. In North Carolina during 1934, a barefoot boy stands beside a small roadside stand selling apples for a few cents, quietly reflecting the economic hardship many American families faced during the Great Depression. At Mima Camp in Egypt in 1914, the first field company engineers posed together, documenting the presence of military engineering units during the early stages of the First World War. In Japan on New Year's Day in 1914, a smiling girl wearing a traditional kimono stands for the camera, capturing a joyful cultural moment during one of the most important celebrations in Japanese society. In 1936, a cyclist lifts the front wheel of a bicycle into the air, creating what is believed to be the first wheelie ever captured in a photograph, preserving a playful moment in cycling history. During the 1930s, a group of men gathers while searching for employment, reflecting the widespread struggle for work during the Great Depression, when millions across the United States faced severe economic hardship. In 1924, a dog named Pep was sentenced to life in prison for killing the cat of Pennsylvania's governor, an unusual story that placed the animal behind bars and made the case widely remembered. Two portraits of Abraham Lincoln reveal the heavy toll of leadership, comparing his appearance in May 1860 before the presidency with February 1865 near the end of the Civil War. Known for posing often, George Armstrong Custer appeared in more than 150 photographs, including this final image taken only 2 months before the 1876 Battle of the Little Bighorn, where he would lose his life. In 1987, a courageous child contacted the police in an effort to stop his father from beating his mother, turning a desperate family moment into an act of bravery that brought authorities into the situation. On May 18, 1980, Mount St. Helens erupted in one of the most significant volcanic events in United States history, flattening forests, reshaping the surrounding landscape, and sending ash clouds drifting across several states. In 1989, a demonstrator strikes the Berlin Wall with determination, symbolizing the collapse of division between East and West Germany and marking the beginning of the end of the Cold War. In 1960, Swedish actress Anita Ekberg confronted paparazzi outside her home with a bow and arrow after being relentlessly followed through the night, dramatically facing the photographers who had gathered outside her driveway. In 1915, on the island of Nias, villagers from Bawomataluo move a massive megalith stone, with legend claiming 525 people worked for 3 days to raise it, in honor of prominent individuals. In 1933, Joseph Goebbels glares toward the camera in a photograph titled "The Eyes of Hatred," taken at the moment he learned the photographer capturing his image was Jewish. Around 1900 in Western Australia, an Aboriginal child forced into servitude pulls a cart carrying a white child, exposing the harsh racial hierarchy and exploitation that existed during Australia's colonial period. In 2009, a suicide bomber attempted to assassinate Saudi Prince Mohammed bin Nayef using explosives concealed inside his body, but the blast largely killed the attacker while the prince survived with only minor injuries. On July 20, 1944, Adolf Hitler stands in the rain at the Wolfschanze station, waiting to receive Benito Mussolini, only hours after surviving an assassination attempt that left him slightly injured. In 1893, Princeton sophomores proudly pose after an intense snowball fight, preserving a spirited moment of student life recorded in the archives of Princeton University. The famous Hollywood sign originally read Hollywoodland, but in 1949 the final four letters were removed, leaving behind the shorter landmark name that would become one of the most recognizable symbols in the world. This historical photograph is credited to Felice Beato, identifying the photographer responsible for capturing the image and preserving the moment through early photographic work associated with his documented career. High above New York around 1920, a fearless daredevil balances on the back legs of a chair stacked on furniture nearly 20 stories up, as photographer George Rinehart captures a breathtaking display of nerve and dangerous precision. In 1914, Grand Duchess Anastasia Nikolaevna takes a rare personal selfie, capturing a quiet moment of youth within Russia's imperial family just a few years before the dramatic upheaval that would end the Romanov dynasty. In 1895, the small settlement of Las Vegas appears as a quiet desert outpost, revealing how the famous city began as a modest frontier location long before its later transformation into a world-known entertainment center. Dressed in a formal suit in 1937, a man glides across the ice while skating, reflecting an era when even simple recreational activities were often approached with elegance and strict social style. In Victorian England, a small boy stands proudly beside his two best friends, creating a simple yet touching portrait of childhood companionship during the late 19th century. At Covent Garden in London during 1877, poor women sell flowers to passing customers, revealing the difficult realities many working women faced while earning small incomes in the busy city marketplace. In 1895, a photographer captures a rare interior view inside a New York ferry, preserving a glimpse of everyday transportation that carried thousands of passengers across the city's busy waterways. During the 1920s, a young boy and girl walk together on their way to school for the start of a new term, capturing a hopeful moment of childhood and education in the early 20th century. Around 1907, the main street of Seven Troughs, Nevada, stretches through the small mining town, with the Seven Troughs Hotel visible on the right in a photograph preserved in the Mrs. R. Purdy collection. In 1971, Gene Wilder, famous for playing Willy Wonka, talks with Jack Albertson, who portrayed Grandpa Joe on the studio lot during the filming of the beloved movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. In Norway during 1905, a bride stands proudly in traditional wedding attire, preserving a cultural portrait that reflects the distinctive customs and ceremonial clothing of Norwegian marriage traditions. On his 84th birthday in 1929, John D. Rockefeller hands a small 5-cent coin to a child, capturing a quiet public gesture from one of the most famous and influential businessmen in American history. A Native American family stands together in the 1890s, preserving a powerful historical portrait that records indigenous life and identity during a time of profound cultural and social change in North America. In 1945, the RMS Queen Elizabeth arrives in New York, carrying soldiers returning home after World War II, marking an emotional moment as thousands of servicemen finally reached American shores after years of war. At Hood River Junction on the Columbia River near the Washington-Oregon border, riders experience the Broughton lumber flume, traveling along the wooden water channel once used to transport logs from the forests. In 1899, Richard White Bull of the Oglala Sioux is photographed in a striking portrait that preserves the image of a respected Native American individual from the closing years of the 19th century. During the 1920s, residents of the Treme neighborhood in New Orleans gathered together, capturing a vibrant community moment within one of the oldest historically African American neighborhoods in the United States. In 1868, rescued slaves crowd the deck of the British ship HMS Daphne, a powerful scene revealing the human reality behind naval efforts to suppress the transatlantic slave trade. Deep in the forests of Washington, in 1908, a logging train works with steam-powered winches called steam donkeys to haul massive felled logs, connecting remote timber camps to mills during the booming Pacific Northwest lumber industry. In 1894, the original design of the Michelin Man appears, introducing the early version of the famous mascot that would later become one of the most recognizable advertising characters in the world. Photographed by Dorothea Lange in Arkansas during 1934, a worried and hungry family reflects the deep hardship many Americans endured during the devastating years of the Great Depression. Between 1725 and 1765 in Russia, Valentina Vasilyev reportedly gave birth to 69 children, including twins, triplets, and quadruplets, creating the extraordinary historical record for the most children born to one mother. In 1925, Bourbon Street in New Orleans appears lively and active, offering a glimpse into the historic street that would later become one of the most famous cultural and nightlife centers in the United States. At a wedding celebration, unexpected pigs wander into the scene, creating a surprising moment that reminds everyone how unpredictable events can quickly turn ordinary plans into unforgettable memories. In 1914, a tourist poses with his automobile near the edge of the Grand Canyon in Arizona, capturing the early era of motor travel when adventurous drivers explored America's dramatic landscapes by car. In 1964, California Street stretches through San Francisco with busy traffic and city life, preserving a mid-20th century view of one of the city's most recognizable urban avenues. From a family photo album in 1926, several children celebrate Easter with bright smiles, a joyful moment remembered simply with a handwritten note describing them as very happy children enjoying the holiday. At a wedding in 1960, 3 girls react with surprise and amusement as a couple kisses, capturing an honest and humorous moment of childhood curiosity during a celebration. In South Carolina during 1912, young oyster shuckers Josie and Bertha, both 6 years old, and Sophie, aged 10, begin work at 4 in the morning at the Majoni Canning Company. In Menominee, Wisconsin in 1905, a schoolteacher lashes a boy across a desk, illustrating a harsh disciplinary practice that was once widely accepted in classrooms of the early 20th century. In 1912, the luxurious first-class gymnasium aboard the Titanic reflects the elegance and modern amenities offered to wealthy passengers traveling on the famous ocean liner. After dark in Montmartre in 1930, the streets of Paris glow with nightlife and activity, capturing the lively atmosphere of the famous artistic district during the early 20th century. Around 1916 in Azcapotzalco, Mexico, a child sits quietly beneath the shade of a towering century plant in a photograph taken by Hugo Breme, creating a calm moment within the natural landscape. In the mid-1990s, a top-of-the-line computer setup represents the cutting edge of personal technology during the early years of the rapidly expanding digital age. In London during 1940, Nurses at a hospital conduct a gas attack drill, carrying babies inside unusual cocoon-like respirators designed to protect infants during possible poison gas evacuations. In 1948, George W. McLaurin becomes the first African-American student admitted to the University of Oklahoma. Yet segregation laws force him to sit apart from his white classmates in classrooms, libraries, and cafeterias. Around 1900, at the Los Angeles Alligator Farm in Lincoln Heights, a baby sits among young alligators, reflecting a time when such close encounters were promoted as harmless entertainment for visiting families. In 1914, painters hang high on the cables of the Brooklyn Bridge without safety equipment, captured by photographer Eugene de Salignac decades after the bridge opened in 1883, following years of difficult construction. In Tokyo, a restaurant delivery boy carefully balances a large tray of soba bowls as he travels through the city, demonstrating the remarkable skill required to transport meals without spilling them. During the British Terra Nova expedition in Antarctica in 1910, explorers pose for a photograph before the tragic return journey from the South Pole that would claim the lives of the entire polar team. During World War I, a crewman aboard a British aircraft prepares to release a bomb from the rear cockpit, revealing the early and dangerous methods of aerial warfare used during the conflict. In 1941, a housewife loads laundry into an early automatic washing machine in her basement, reflecting the growing convenience of modern household appliances entering American homes. Taken in 1826 or 1827 by Joseph Nicephore Niepce, view from the window at Le Gras captures the scene outside his estate in Burgundy, France, widely recognized as the oldest surviving photograph. A proud logger stands confidently beside his work in an undated photograph, representing the demanding labor and rugged identity of those who worked in the timber industry. In 1917, veterans gather with an actual Confederate battle flag during a reunion, preserving a historical moment connected to the memory of the American Civil War. From the Enola Gay's window in 1945, the crew looked back at Hiroshima moments after the little boy atomic bomb was dropped, a blast that killed about 120,000 people within the first 4 days. In 1972, two influential figures of rock music, David Bowie and Lou Reed, stand together in a moment that captures a meeting between artists who helped shape the sound and identity of popular music. In 1982, Michael Jackson and actor Vincent Price worked side by side during the creation of the song and album Thriller, a collaboration that became part of one of the most successful and influential records ever produced. In the tense atmosphere following Iran's 1979 Islamic Revolution, women gathered in protest against the newly imposed compulsory hijab law, publicly challenging a policy that quickly became one of the revolution's most visible social changes. A Soviet propaganda poster from 1973 boldly declares the USSR as the standard bearer of peace, reflecting how the Soviet Union presented its global role during the Cold War era. In 1916, during World War I, an immense collection of 105mm artillery shells shows the scale of Allied bombardment on German lines, all fired within a single day along the brutal and unrelenting Western Front. In Hurum, Norway, on November 20, 1949, 11-year-old Isaac Alal stands as the only survivor of a Douglas DC-3 crash that killed 27 others, including Jewish children traveling from Tunisia to Israel. In 1980, 112-year-old Taimruz Vanacha, a veteran of World War I and the Russian Civil War, stands beside his son Ivan, who fought in World War II, linking two generations shaped by different global conflicts. In 1982, 14-year-old Celine Dion sits across from her future husband and manager, René Angélil, then 39, during the early years of a partnership that would guide her path into international music fame. Captured in 1893 in the Grand Duchy of Finland, 14-year-old Johanna Kokkonen works in slash-and-burn agriculture, a demanding rural tradition documented by photographer Eero Jernefelt. In 1945, 15-year-old German soldier Hans-Georg Henke breaks down in tears from combat shock near the end of World War II, a moment revealing the human cost of sending young teenagers into battle. Around 1958, 16-year-old Jimi Hendrix poses with his first electric guitar, marking an early moment in the life of a musician who would later become one of the most influential guitarists in modern music. In about 1917, a young 16-year-old Walt Disney appears in a photograph taken during his teenage years, long before he would become one of the most recognizable creators in the history of animation and entertainment. In 1945, in Hessen, Germany, 16-year-old Hitler Youth anti-aircraft soldier Hans-Georg Henke cries from combat shock after being captured by the United States Ninth Army as the war in Europe reached its final months. In 1937, Barcelona, during the Spanish Civil War, 17-year-old Maria Ginesta stands armed on a rooftop, a striking image of youth caught within the conflict dividing Spain. 17-year-old Bryn Owen from Leicester proudly displays his Vespa scooter decorated with 34 mirrors and 81 lights, all purchased with his own pocket money. At the 1960 Rome Olympics, 18-year-old Muhammad Ali stands alone in a quiet moment before the competition that would bring him a gold medal and mark the beginning of one of boxing's most remarkable careers. In 1847 in Saltillo, Mexico, General John E. Wool and his staff appear in the Calle Real during the Mexican-American War, in what became one of the earliest known war photographs ever captured. Around 1880 in Santa Barbara, California, children ride beside a donkey cart near the luxurious Arlington Hotel, a glimpse of everyday life unfolding in the shadow of one of the city's most prominent buildings. In 1892, towering piles of American bison skulls reveal the industrial aftermath of mass slaughter, as the bones were collected and sold for fertilizer during a period that nearly wiped out the species. In 1892, loggers posed beside the remains of a massive 1,300-year-old tree, illustrating the enormous scale of the ancient forests that were being cut during the height of the logging era. In 1895, near Santa Barbara, Lulu Malsby and Callie Chambers stand at the asphalt mine in Goleta, where material used to pave the city's streets was extracted from the 1880s onward. A photograph from 1896 shows a house in Canudos, Brazil, the independent religious community founded by preacher Antonio Conselheiro that would be destroyed by the Brazilian government in 1897. In Washington in 1963, 19-year-old Bill Clinton shakes hands with President John F. Kennedy, a brief meeting that would later become a famous image linking two generations of American political leaders. In 1945, 19-year-old Soviet sniper Rosa Shanina stands as one of the most successful female snipers of World War II, credited with 59 confirmed kills on the Eastern Front. In 1901, Montreal is buried beneath a powerful snowstorm, the streets and buildings transformed into a frozen landscape as winter weather overtakes the Canadian city. Taken in 1916, the image shows an Armenian woman who was later robbed and raped during the Armenian genocide, reflecting the violence faced by countless civilians during that tragedy. In Yosemite Park in 1916, a Studebaker Roadster is positioned dramatically beneath overhanging rock for a publicity photograph, blending early automobile promotion with the dramatic scenery of the national park. During World War I, the combat troops known as the Harlem Hellfighters gained recognition for their resilience, never surrendering, never having a soldier captured, and standing firmly against enemy forces. In 1917, on the Western Front in France, Canadian troops pause in a field during their attack on the Cambrai front, taking a brief rest amid the exhaustion and uncertainty of trench warfare. Times Square in 1917 appears crowded with vehicles and activity, showing the rapid growth of traffic and urban life in New York City during the early 20th century. In 1920 in New York, women stand in line to vote for the first time after the passage of the 19th Amendment, a historic moment that expanded voting rights across the United States. In 1920 Budapest in the Kingdom of Hungary, a lesbian couple poses in semi-drag wedding attire, offering a rare historical glimpse into personal identity and relationships during that period. A 1920s farm school in Missouri shows children gathered for class, some without shoes, while the teacher stands nearby with a stern expression. The 1927 Bugatti Type 41 Royale Coupe Napoleon appears with its family chauffeur, representing one of the most famous luxury automobiles ever produced. A bulky hair dryer from the 1930s illustrates the early technology used in beauty salons long before modern portable styling tools became common. In 1932, during the Great Depression, an unemployed man holds a troubling sign expressing the desperation faced by millions struggling to find work during the economic crisis. At a polling station in Saxony during the 1933 German federal election, voters gather in a moment that came just as democratic institutions in Germany were about to collapse. In 1933, Nash Motors displayed an automobile elevator, demonstrating a striking mechanical system designed to move cars between floors in a dramatic showroom presentation. In 1939 in Brest-Litovsk, Soviet and Nazi forces hold a joint military parade after the invasion of Poland, a moment reflecting their brief cooperation following the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Also in 1939, Soviet and German officers meet in Brest, Poland, as the double invasion of the country reshaped Eastern Europe at the beginning of World War II. In Brest, Poland, in 1939, Soviet and German officers meet face-to-face after the double invasion of Poland, a moment shaped by the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact that briefly aligned two rival powers at the beginning of World War II. In 1941, on Chicago's South Side, residents appeared dressed in their Sunday best, capturing a proud moment of community life in the American city. In 1944 in France, Jacob Nacken, the tallest soldier in Nazi Germany, surrenders to Canadian Corporal Bob Roberts during the Allied advance across Western Europe. In 1948, the massacre at Tantura stands as one of the violent episodes during the conflict surrounding the establishment of Israel. In 1949, the colorful performers of Bozo Circus entertain audiences, reflecting the growing popularity of televised children's entertainment in the early years of broadcast television.